Good to meet you. We'll go around in a bit and do introductions with everybody. Good deal. So, hi everyone. My name is Logan Baldwin. I'm the. Come on in, John. Oh yeah. All right. All right. Hey, hey, Anthony. I am the executive director of Klamath Film, and this is our September monthly meeting. Um, Tonight, our guest is Aaron Allen. He is someone that I worked on a project with this summer, and we'll get to know all about him. I've got a handful of announcements. First of all, I have really sad news, which, yeah, I know we gotta get it out of the way so that we can talk about the happy news after that.
Yeah.
Um,
Shocker.
it is with deep sadness that we share the news of the passing of Wayne Sweat. He was a co-founding member of Klamath Film and a longtime local actor, and he's been on our board for longer than I've been.
Several years.
Several years.
I
Yeah.
mean, he was still a member of the board by the time that I joined, like 5 years ago.
Yeah. He was a dedicated and beloved part of our community, known for his infectious laughter and love of acting. Over the years, he's appeared in numerous shorts and feature films, many of which were showcased at the Klamath Independent Film Festival. Wayne's contributions to Klamath Film and the local art scene were immense, and he will be sorely missed. In his honor, we will incorporate a tribute to Wayne during this year's festival and celebrate his life and legacy. I did not know Wayne personally. He was sick since I've been a part of the organization, and so I hate that I never got to know him. But Bowen, would you like to say anything?
I can mention that, especially in the initial time that I've spent in Klamath Film and just working in the Klamath space and community and trying to develop my own skills and craft as an actor and performer, Wayne was definitely a good point of a resource to me and of a great person to have to talk to, and especially in my jumping off points, and that he was foundational to making sure that, at least in my own perspectives, that he immediately welcomed me with open arms of showing me and helping me with things like setting up what a reel looked like and how to do auditions and how to approach talking to directors and casting directors and managers and everything there. So I very much appreciated all of the work that he did and all of how welcoming he was as soon as I started, of all the help that he provided. So that's definitely something that Wayne I will always make sure that he has that credit, that he is part of the reason why I felt comfortable enough to get my own path in acting off the ground, and that, okay, this guy can do it. He's been doing it for a while, and he mentioned himself that he didn't start acting until later on in his life, and he started it on a dare, but he was still able to get a good career going and get film roles and to join in and be a part of the community. So that's something that definitely helped with, okay, in the best way, if he can do it, I can do it. So just to honor him in that way, definitely one of the significant important components of not just myself, but building up the community around him of the arts, of the entertainment, and of bringing performance to the Klamath Basin and the community at large.
Yeah, man, and that's exactly what we're here to do, right? We're here to help other people get into the industry. We're here to help set up those networking opportunities and, meet with other people and get them involved, just like Wayne did with you. And so it's no wonder he's a founding member, and it's no wonder he was such an important part to Klamath Film. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah.
In here.
Yeah. He did.
Yes, Wayne passed away.
Yeah. Week and a half ago, something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. It sucks. It really sucks. Now that we've got the bad news out of the way, we can get to the good news, which is the film festival is next weekend.
Mm-hmm. And I think in the acknowledgement that it's definitely in that vein of, I think Wayne would also definitely, in appreciation, or at the very least, he would still want to be part of these meetings if he could, of especially being present for the film festival, being present for all these festivities. So if that is a point, is that I think I like to acknowledge that, at least in myself, and I think for you as well, we move forward in acknowledgement that that's also, we wish he was here.
Absolutely. So we have a tribute for him planned at the film festival, which is next weekend. So that's very, very exciting. This will be my first film festival with the well, really ever. I've never even been to a film festival, much less ran one. So I'm super excited and also extremely busy, which I'm sure you can all imagine. I've got a rundown of the schedule here. If I just give a brief little overview, it is Friday through Sunday of next weekend. We'll have an opening night gala at 4. That's when it starts. We'll have food trucks out in front of the Ross Raglan. That's where it's going to take place. We'll have food trucks and we'll have speeches, and it'll be fun, and we'll all eat and hang out and network and talk about movies and stuff, and that's great. And then everything really kicks off at 6:15. We'll have our welcome there, and then our first night we only have 3 films showing. We have one short called One Fighting Irishman, and it's about a lawyer who was fighting to restore the Japanese restore citizenship to the Japanese Americans after World War II. It's about the Tule Lake Japanese internment. Tule Lake. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're all good.
Is this a documentary then?
It is.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. And it's narrated by George Takei. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he himself had family and was
exactly
connected to.
I think it was his dad. Is that right?
It was his dad who was interred at the Tule Lake concentration camp.
Yep.
I know there are more details. I was the one who watched the documentary, and I did the Q&A with Sharon Yamato, the director for this. So I'll have to double check. I watched it many times, so I'm annoyed at myself that I don't have these details off the top of my head. But yeah, George Takei was very deeply and directly involved, and his father is mentioned in the background on how he was connected and involved in being processed in the internment camp, and then also how the Fighting Irishman, not that I think that spoiling any details are important, but how the Fighting Irishman fight for him to make sure that he had his citizenship and the future that he was able to secure for thousands of Japanese Americans.
Well, and then George, at least he had a little bit of parts in that second season of The Terror, which they talk about. The first season was about Dan Simmons' book going to the North, finding the North Pole Passage. Second season was about, I think it was his internment camp. I think George actually, he wasn't in all of them, but he was in some of the episodes. So, just interesting how those kind of come full circle.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And then
not an easy season to find, let me tell you.
I'm sure, but you can learn a lot more about it Friday night of next week. So that'll be good. And then next up we have for Friday we'll have John Sunshine's Lost Rock and Roll Tape, which is actually a pilot for a show that's being worked on, and it's really cool. It's a man finds a wild interview to impress, or films a wild interview to impress a rock magazine, and that one is awesome. It's kind of a thriller. It's about him sitting down and recording this interview with this hair metal rock guy who's and it's one of my favorites. I'm going to say that about all of these. Probably it's one of my favorites, but it is. And then wrapping it up, we have Freedom, Wisconsin. A young woman's life changes after meeting a big city writer. So it's kind of, that one's kind of a Daria like feeling, like small town vibe. It's a dramedy, and it's really fun too. And then after that, we will have an after party at the Basin Martini Bar. So be sure to come to that too.
And that's just day one.
That's just day one, absolutely. And then day 2 is Saturday, and Saturday is filled with just feature films. So we've got Bent, which was shot in Ashland, and you guys remember Bad Fish that screened here? It's the same guy, it's the same director, same crew, same cast, and so this one's not a horror, but it's sort of a mystery detective going on, and so that one's really fun.
Would you call it a thriller?
Yeah, I think I would.
I think it would.
I think
it qualifies.
Yeah. And then we've got Red Wine Drive. A nurse in 1979 forms a risky bond with a patient at a mental institution. That one's great. And then we've got Somewhere Confidential. It's like a detective noir kind of deal. And it's a comedy. It's great. It's all black and white. It gives real I'm not a huge noir guy, but it gives big Roger Rabbit kind of vibe.
I am, so
Yeah.
don't worry.
Yeah.
That's super fun vibes all around.
Yeah. It gives Roger Rabbit vibes in that there's not cartoons in it, but it's a noir and it's a comedy and it hits
Just
really
give me
really
any
hard.
grayscale, a muted trumpet solo, and a monologue in the foreground, and wisps of smoke in the middle of the room, and it's like boom. All right,
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And then we've got famous agoraphobic woman tells all. A failed actor becomes famous after a heroic act, but no longer desires the spotlight. That one's really cool because Anna Nicholas, who was a featured guest, I think over the summer, right? That was while I was gone. She wrote and directed it and starred in it, and she has been an actor in Hollywood for a long, long time and has done tons of commercials in the 90s and stuff. And they managed to use those commercials in this movie to sort of flesh out this character's career. And so it's really, really fun. And I talked about Kurt a lot with about this. I talked with Kurt a lot about this because it's very Sorkin vibes.
Yep.
And it is so funny and so like on it with the writing, and it's awesome. And then we've got Above the Trees. That's another one that was shot in Ashland. And you guys might not know this, but I worked in Ashland a lot this summer. It's not like I talk about it a lot. And
I had no idea.
That one's really, really cool because I recognized a ton of people and locations that were in this. I'm like, I know that place. I know exactly where they are. I know that park. I know that restaurant. I know this person. And that was just really, really fun. And I love that one as well. That one's called Above the Trees. And then finally, we have Breakup Season. A young man's trip to introduce his girlfriend to his family goes disastrously wrong, and it's sort of a drama. Would you call it a drama comedy or just a drama?
I think it's primarily drama. It has some comedic elements.
Yeah, totally.
And definitely you can have those, but I think there's I don't think that muddies the intent.
Right.
At least that the intent stays that, it's meant to be, there's a lot of feelings.
Yes, exactly. And that one's cool. It was shot in La Grande, Oregon. If you didn't know it, everything we show at the film festival is all made in Oregon. So this one was shot in La Grande, and it's got Chandler Riggs in it in the starring role, and that's Carl from the son from The Walking Dead. So it's cool that we've got a handful of memorable face or recognizable faces with Chandler Riggs and George Takei and all of this stuff. It's great. It's good. And then after that, that's the last one for that day. And then we'll have another after party at Basin Martini Bar. So networking, party, filmmaking, good stuff. And then finally, the last day, we have all of our short films. Mm-hmm. And so we have them separated into different blocks. And if I named all them off, we'd be here for 2 more hours.
Oh, yeah. I also will just add, you cannot make a film without having a party.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So starting at 9, we have all of our student films, and they're really great, but because they're student films, they range in many different genres. There, we've got some that are documentaries, we've got some that are horrors, we've got some that are also comedies. They're really great. And then after that, speaking of comedy, we have all of our comedy films. And so, if you're just interested in comedy, come and hang out for an hour and a half and you can watch all of our comedic short films. And then those are obviously very fun. And then after that, we've got our documentary block, and they're all short films. And then we've got our questioning reality block. So those are going to be like sort of a sci-fi, sort of a horror sometimes. Something's wrong. What's going on with this place? There's one called Endless that I really like. That's like a reality loop.
Fiction that one might consider speculative.
Yes, exactly. And then we've got our human connections block. and that one's a lot of dramas. And then we've got we have, a lot of horror. So we've got scares and laughs block. We have where we alternate between horror and comedy, and a lot of them fit really well together. So we put them in a block together, and then that's all we've got. And then after that, we've got the awards ceremony, and that'll be at 6:40 on Sunday, and voila, that is our whole schedule pretty much. So it's a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see. And then, so another thing that I wanted to mention is we are still looking for volunteers. We've got a handful of people, but it's always good to have some extra hands, people working the door, people doing ushering, people taking photos and videos. So if you haven't already bought your ticket, you can volunteer with us, do at least 4 hours or so on any given day, and then you'll have free tickets for the whole festival. Have any of you already bought your tickets?
Just about to.
Just about to? Okay, well, hang on to that.
Full passes.
Don't do that just yet, because I'm going to raffle off a free pair of tickets tonight for everybody who showed up tonight.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. So, Bowen, while I'm talking for a minute, if you'll just go through and maybe tear that up. I was thinking of putting it all in the hat, and I should have done this maybe a half hour ago or more.
If you can keep talking, I can.
Yes, I can keep talking, and then everybody can go around and write their name down, and I'll make sure and get Douglas and Alan and Court in there too, if you're interested. Well, I guess probably Douglas is not going to be able to come down from Washington.
If you really need me to, I can set up like a random generator or random
we'll do it in
generator.
Do it in the hat.
I mean, personally, they can't quite, write their names down.
Yes, we'll write it down for them. And I said that, Douglas, but we also are online streaming too, so you can have those free tickets and watch it all online for free if you wanted to.
I'll be down there Tuesday, Wednesday, but I just didn't coordinate it right to be there over the weekend.
That sucks. We would love to have you there. But like I said, we are doing it online as well, so that'll be great. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about before we got into it with our featured guest, Aaron, was that we have a filmmaking opportunity here, a job opportunity. Andrew Hinton is an Emmy-winning filmmaker who's seeking a local DP/camera operator for a documentary on epigenetics, filming in Klamath Falls. They're still looking for candidates. So if anybody's interested in being a DP or a camera operator, let me know and I'll give out that information. He's an Emmy-winning filmmaker, like I said. He worked on Tashi and the Monk, which is a 40-minute documentary about a remarkable children's community in the Himalayas. So I believe that's on HBO Max. So, bam.
Anybody here know what epigenetics is? If not, I can explain it a little bit.
Please, go for it, man.
So, epigenetics is a specialization or subdivision of the field of genetics or genetic science that it's more concerning the fact of how external forces in our environment and over the course of people's lives can in fact affect people's genetic makeup and essentially do the functionally equivalent as flipping switches in people's elements of their physiology and just biology that over time can influence and turn over successive generations point in certain, just traits being manifested more and more often just because of external factors influencing on the genetic level. I'm massively oversimplifying it, but it's a very interesting facet of genetic understanding or just understanding of people's genetic makeup and DNA. That is still, it's a very, very young discipline still, but it's being explored. So the fact that he's doing a documentary about that, not just in town, very interesting.
Yeah. So, obviously you're the expert on this whole job,
yes,
right?
Of course, I have 3 PhDs and have studied 10 peer-reviewed papers on the subject now.
Right, exactly. So what do you think, obviously you have to know the answer to this, what do you think is the reason that he would be coming to Klamath to work on a project like that?
I wouldn't know off the top of my head, given that we do have some research locations in town that I believe, of course, just the basic research study labs. I wouldn't know enough about what specifically he might be here for. Perhaps there's an expert in the area that he'll want to talk to, or perhaps there's a phenomenon that's happening, in the Klamath Basin that has or is currently being studied in terms of representation of like how different epigenetic factors manifest. But I wouldn't know off the top of my head just what that might look like. I'm interested in finding out.
Yeah, so am I. So that's great. I would have loved to do it, but they were wanting to shoot this week, and they haven't found anybody yet. So they pushed it back.
It's also a director of photography position. So
exactly.
Ideally they're looking for like, of course, for anybody interested out there listening now or watching this recording, if you are watching it within the week that it's uploaded, looking for somebody that can, of course, help in the cinematography side of it. So, yeah, I don't know. I wish them well. I don't think I have that much experience to apply myself, but
yeah. So that's super interesting. If you're interested in that, just ask me at the end, and I'll give you that person's information to be able to reach out to that, and that goes for everybody online too. And Aaron, if you're interested in being a DP for an Emmy award-winning filmmaker, yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah, so that's all the announcements I have here. I figure, Aaron, you can come and hang out with us now, and then we'll go and do we'll go around and introduce everybody, and then we'll hit you at the end, and then we'll just start talking about movies and filmmaking.
If you wanted, Aaron, we did have, if you wanted to sit there. Not that I'm corralling you at all. I was just asking.
You just got comfortable. Now get up, and then now you. Yeah. Let's see. Do we want to? Bowen, you and I can share this mic if you want to send that one back down. Yes, good deal. So I'll start. We'll just do introductions. My name is Logan Baldwin. I am the new executive. Well, not that new anymore. I've been here for 8 months, something like that, 7 months.
You're still new.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very new. Trust me. I'm the executive director of Klamath Film, and I have been in Klamath for just over a year now. I moved here from Tennessee. Just over a year ago. My wife graduated from law school in Memphis, and she was looking up at the job board, and we didn't have any idea where she was going to go or what we were going to do. And she saw that there was a clerk position at the courthouse here in Klamath Falls, and we were both like, we don't have kids. At the time, I'd never been any further west than St. Louis. So I was just like, yeah, let's go explore. Let's do something crazy. And here I am doing something crazy, everyone. So I am a filmmaker. And in Memphis, I was a product photographer for TJ Maxx and Marshalls for a handful of years. And that was really fun. And then I came out here and I got this job, and then which also led to me being a production assistant on a Bruce Campbell project that happened over the summer, and you'll hear about that a lot tonight, I'm sure, or at least a little, because that's where I met Aaron. He was the first AD on that one, and I'll let him introduce himself a little bit later. So that's me. I'll pass it down to Bowen, and then after that, we'll go around the table, and I want to know if there's any projects or anything that anybody wants to promote or that they need help with, because that's one of the big things that we do here is we try to hook people up, who need help with filmmaking gigs. So, bam. Bowen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Here. So, hello, everyone. My name is Bowen Browder. I am an actor, performer, just general filmmaker located in the Klamath Falls area. I have been a performer or performing artist of various kinds my entire life, starting when I was age 3, extending from dancing to being an instrumentalist. I play the saxophone, and now, of course, later in my life as an actor. I'm also I'm a Klamath Falls native that I've been here my whole life. My day job, or at least my daytime occupation, falls within education. Ranging from higher education, but I just recently am working in like the high school level. But between all of that, I've been with Klamath Film for about 4 or 5 years now. I'm now currently the vice board chair, and I've stuck around so long because I have a humongous passion for all of the arts, but especially filmmaking, and most particularly, I have had a lifelong love of storytelling in all its forms, and a massive appreciation for anyone who chooses to be a storyteller and to make that sort of difference in their own lives and people's lives. So it's something that I'm always invested in having a lifelong process of learning about. So it's always fun to be in a room with other like-minded people and talk about that and promote filmmaking and promote storytelling and everything that that entails.
Oh, Anthony, you're up, man.
Yes, my name is Anthony Lee Thornton. I am a local Klamath. I'm not a native, but really enjoyed the scenery here and meeting Klamath Film. Moving forward, I have a film production company here and currently working on my first feature. And just learning how putting the team together on an independent, I guess, just ass kicking, honestly, to say at the least.
Yeah, I'm John Skedstad. Been a member of Klamath Film for a number of years. Still wanting to get my cyberpunk movie going here and hopefully be able to work on that soon. And but other than that, just enjoy having all of you guys come and help us learn bits of the industry. Yeah, there's lots of collective wisdom that everybody's got. It's pretty amazing. Appreciate Owen and I forget his name. Yeah. And then
Logan.
Oh, that's easy enough. And for taking kind of over the helm now that our good friend has moved up to Eugene. But anyways, that's it for me.
Wow. Hi, I'm Brian Ellis. I moved here about 8 years ago from San Diego. Was involved in trying to get things made down there. There's still a couple of television shows that I'm ancillarily involved in, if that's the word. Got here and immediately connected up, looked up the local film community, and that was Klamath Film at the time. And so I got involved just as a member and then eventually was board chair. Made a short film that premiered at the 2019 Klamath Independent Film Festival here, a little horror film that was written by a middle schooler at Ponderosa Middle School here in town. All local actors, and lucky enough to get some pretty nice crew from out of town that since I'm connected with some small production companies. Since then, I've kind of moved away from film. I work full time as a high school teacher for Klamath Basin Behavioral Health here in town. Love my job, but it also meant kind of letting go of about 99% of my filmmaking stuff. But I can't quite let go of the other 1%. So anyway, I am, for those, I also, just real quickly, knew Wayne for many years, and he was truly a sweet guy, and he was an amazing actor. He was just, his naturalistic style of acting just connected every time. So I was a shock to find out just today, and I almost dropped some inappropriate language in front of my high school students when I found out today. So yeah, wow, he's really gonna be missed. So I'm glad there's gonna be a tribute to him. He's been in a number of films that played at the festival as well. And I'm really looking forward to the festival this year. I don't know if everybody's got their tickets yet, but you better get them because this is a great festival. Because it's local to Oregon, you can oftentimes meet the filmmakers, the actors. A lot of them will attend because it's so close to where they live, which is not something you have at other film festivals. So I'd highly encourage you to be there. It's a great film festival to come and attend. I will be there again this year, and then just looking forward to the future. Like I said, I've kind of been out of the loop. There's a couple projects that, still looking at potentially. I had put together a pitch for a project with Chris Eyre directing and Wes Studi narrating, and Jeff Beal had agreed to do the music for the right price about the dam removal project. It didn't come about from me getting financing for that, but Shane Anderson is doing an amazing job. That dude he's really quite a guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he comes up with out of that festival as well. Yeah. Oh, and Above the Trees, I'm really looking forward to that one. Gary Lundgren's film that's going to be in the festival this year. Of course, he shot Phoenix, Oregon here in town a few years back, and you can see me in the background as an extra in that film. It was really fun to have that film shot in town. So anyway, What's that? Yes, the number one, number one in America for 1 week during COVID.
Yeah, good deal. I don't really know that story super well. Do you want to tell that one?
As far as the number one?
Yeah.
Also, let's make sure that we have the rest of the.
Oh yeah,
Well,
go
yeah.
for it. Go for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It's silly, but yeah.
It's good to finally meet you. I've been
Yeah.
emailing with you, and I didn't hear you introduce yourself to Bowen earlier.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, good to meet you, Brian. Douglas, would you like to go through and introduce yourself for everybody?
Sure. My name's Doug. I was born in Portland, raised in Vancouver. For the last 24 years, I've lived in Spokane, Washington. Worked with higher ed, more in a staff position with WSU and EWU within the speech language pathology department. Prior to that, one of my favorite jobs was I was a videographer on a cruise ship for a little while, but that's when I met my wife, came back on land and moved to Spokane. I worked at the AV department for summer concerts, so we've done a lot of live action. So I was working with the IMEGs, and my ultimate favorite job there was being pit camera right down in front. So I love playing with cameras. Never had full training. It's always what I wanted to do, but life went in a different direction. Well, I can say my small claim to fame is that 3 minutes into Free Willy, you can actually see the camera pass by me. That's best I can do.
All right. Everybody's got one.
I got one. So Nina invited me to the meeting. I'm working on a project with her. I'm really excited about that, and so hopefully we'll be able to move forward on it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that project at all, or is it still under wraps?
It's with hers. There's some stop motion, but she has a character named Melvin that he's a zombie, a great character. But I have a character whose name's Brock that basically likes to interview people. Kind of the premise behind it is trying to get kids to learn about new hobbies or future careers to find value in life, kind of a suicide prevention, excitable program. But he goes around interviewing people to find out what things are out there. And so we just did a puppet festival, and I thought it'd be fun to do kind of a behind the scenes, what goes on putting a festival together. I didn't really have a large enough crew, and I was traveling back and forth and had some family ailments that we had that kind of put it on hold. But while at the festival, we talked about it. I said, let's actually work on it. Let's script it out. And it's interviewing different people and having some different sketches in it. But as a good opener, I thought about using her theater set that she has with Melvin, kind of starting up at a old rundown theater that Melvin is the usher for. And so anyway, that's where we're at, talking about it, getting it storyboarded, and then I have many other people to go interview to what it takes to put on a festival and the different things. It's kind of give a mouse a cookie. I interview one person, they say this, but I need to get this to get to the next, and it just kind of progresses through. So it's in the planning stages, and I got myself another month and a half to get the script outlined, and then, like everybody else, go find funding and then put it together.
That's right. That's right. Well, I can't wait to see that, because I would desperately love to know how to put a film festival together, or a festival of any kind. That's great.
A lot of similarities.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Doug. I appreciate you being here. Alan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Alan. I'm just starting the process of learning voice work and being a voice actor. Just beginning the process of hoping to make the transition from human resources to voice. I'm originally from Klamath Falls. I lived in the Seattle area for quite a while. I've been back for about 10 years now. My only performance-related things, I've done some presentations to groups, in human resources and volunteer groups. And I did have a couple small parts in school plays back in high school. So, but anyway, I'm new to all this, and I'm looking to learn and network.
Yeah, that's great. I love to hear it. Well, come hang out with us. We do this monthly, like I said, and then that's how you learn about opportunities that are in the area. We send out, if you're a member, we send out emails to everybody as soon as I get them, about opportunities that are in Klamath, whether it be for behind the scenes or in front of the camera. So it's great to have you out here. You said you've been in Klamath for the last 10 years, apart
Yes.
from. Okay, good. Yeah, well, I'm glad to have you, Alan. Thank you for coming
Thank
out.
you.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
my pleasure.
finally, Court, you and I have not met officially, but if you're around, would you like to introduce yourself? And we'll say maybe. We'll give that one a maybe. All right. Well, then I guess that's everybody. If everybody hangs around until the end, I've got everybody's name in this hat here, and we'll be raffling off free tickets to the Klamath Independent Film Festival. And if you guys online win, like I said, it's online too. You can watch it streaming. So that's great. Now, the fun part. We have our featured guest, Aaron Allen. Aaron, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, guys. My name is Aaron Allen. I'm just up the road in Medford. So big thanks to Logan for inviting me out for this. We had a really good time working on a movie this last summer with Bruce. And that was a really good experience. A little bit about my background. Born and raised in Ontario, Oregon. I've always been super creative, was into animation, comic books. And as I got older, I got into movies and inspired by a little movie called Star Wars. I don't know if you guys have heard it ever, or if anyone else has ever been inspired by that film.
Oh, you mean The Acolyte?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So my family moved to Medford when I was about 14, and just kept pounding away at drawing and all that. And I got a great break at a local production company and hung out there for a while, just kind of like being a gopher, getting coffee for everyone and just soaking up as much as I could. And then one week, it was a long holiday weekend, and the guy that was kind of take me under his wing, he gave me this book on After Effects, do as many of these tutorials as you can this weekend, and we'll talk to you Tuesday. So that's what I did for the whole weekend, just trying to wrap my head around it. And that next week they offered me a job. That was kind of the beginning of my career in the film industry, and I worked on a lot of commercials, music videos, and I worked with a lot of great companies, a lot of travel around the United States. Yeah, and then I hooked up with Bruce and his wife Ida, and God, that was 20-something years ago. Funny enough, the studio I was working at was closing and moving to Portland. And Bruce and Ida live in the Rogue Valley, obviously, and Ida came in looking for a studio space. And it's one of my last days. I already had my resume, my reel kind of together. And she came in and introduced myself and gave it to her. And I just talked a little about what I want to do and what they're kind of looking to do. And then I didn't hear from her for 3 months. But 3 months later, she called me up. It's are you interested in, working with us? And I'm like, yes. And so that was kind of the beginning of my relationship with them. And it's been a really good relationship working with them over the years. And I got the chance to be first AD on his last film. So kind of brings us current. And that's how I met Logan. So here I am.
Yeah, good deal. That production company you said you worked for in Medford, was that the same one that Mike Estes worked at? Did you guys meet there?
No, but we did work with that company. The company I worked for was Fusion Post-Production, but he worked at Landmine Studios with John Foote. So, and Mike Estes and I go way back, back to high school. So we've known each other for a really long time. And yeah, and it was actually Mike that kind of pitched me on hey, dude, do you want to come do this first AD thing?
Right, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, big props to Mike if he's on or listening. Yeah, we go way back. So yeah, man, I mean, we crossed paths numerous times, working on all kinds of projects together, and it's been a good run.
Totally.
Sure.
Yeah, Mike, for those of you who were here for it or were not here for it, Mike, we had on 2 months ago at this very meeting, and he zoomed in and he was the stuntman that had all the amazing stories about Borat and about Tenet and all of this sort of stuff. That was a really, really great time. Mike is
good stories.
He does. Mike is he's the best. Everybody on our crew was the absolute best.
The crew for that movie was amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone was so awesome. It made my job way easier, right? first AD, you're just kind of in charge of everyone and everything on set. And if everyone knows their job and is a professional, like, I don't got to do much.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't say enough about that crew. And if anyone's listening, like, you guys are awesome, and I love all of you. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I was saying before, 2 months ago, we had Mike Estes on. He was a producer. He was the stunt man. He was on set at all times. He was the best. And then last month we had Kurt Roth on, who was our DP, and he was also great. He had a lot of great stories.
And a lot of bad dad jokes. Right?
Yes, absolutely. And he would not stop going on about Peanuts and Charlie Brown and and then next month we've got Rose on, Rose Harwood.
Awesome.
Yes, and she was a producer and accountant. What exactly was her title for that one?
She was my savior.
Yeah, she was everybody's savior.
Big call out to her, her and BB on the film. I couldn't have done anything without those two. They had my back and just helped me through the whole experience. And Mike too, like, he's my partner in crime, right? So yeah, talking to Rose will be great. She's brilliant, and she was a huge help on that film.
That's right, and she's got a long list of acting credits too.
For sure.
Yeah, so it's great to. I always like I said, I loved everybody. I loved talking to her. And then you brought up BB. BB Daniel was our second AD on the project, and she is a recent SOU graduate and got on. And she was actually one of the judges for KIFF this year. So she's also really, really great.
Right on, BB.
Yeah, good deal. All right. So does anybody have any questions for Aaron off the bat, or I can take the lead, I guess?
I just want to know what aspect.
Oh, did you have Mike? Yeah. Pass that down, Anthony. Yeah, there we go.
I'm just curious what aspect that you have enjoyed, or right now you're saying AD. Did you enjoy doing more of the behind the scenes film, I guess you would say post-production stuff? Or
I've always been more of a behind the scenes guy. Never been an actor or anything. Yeah.
Dad always told me how to face for radio.
I've heard the same thing about me, so that's all good. But yeah, I've always been really interested in the behind the scenes, like what makes the machine go, right? And like I said, I got started at a young age drawing. So like I've done a bunch of storyboarding, I've done some concept art. But I really kind of hit the ground running when I was into After Effects, doing a lot of motion graphics for commercials and whatnot. And one of my mentors was like, dude, you should learn how to edit. And it never even was on my radar to edit. And so I kind of dove into that. And that's kind of actually what I do the most right now. There's a lot of editing, some shooting. But being first AD, that was a great experience. I directed a bunch of stuff, some music videos, a few commercials. So getting into that whole ball game, that was so much fun. I had such a blast. It was intense, no lie. It was super intense. Bruce knows exactly what he wants and how to get there.
Well, he's been around the block.
He's been around a few times. Not his first rodeo, but and working with him for decades now, we kind of had a bit of a shorthand, which was cool. And he's been a mentor since day one. He taught me a lot about editing, actually. So yeah, I've always been more of a behind the scenes kind of guy. Post production's cool. I love doing that. Pre-production I really enjoy. I've done some writing, just fun. I guess a bit of a jack of all trades to a certain extent. Like I said, I'm not an actor, but everything else is super cool and interesting to me. I'm a musician, so filmmaking just ended up being all these different skill sets that I was super interested in, just kind of coming together. I'm like, well, obviously I should be pursuing this. And but that's what I did. And not gonna lie, there's been times of frustration and is this gonna go anywhere kind of thing. But everyone has that, I'm sure. But honestly, I feel like if it's your passion, you really don't have a choice. You might get frustrated, might take a break for a while, but in the back of your mind that you got to do this, you got to try that.
Well, yeah, because the alternative is you're happy.
Exactly.
Like you.
exactly, yeah, though that 1% will not go away. So, it's been a great ride so far, and get to meet lots of great people I never thought I would meet, and just hope I have a bunch more time to keep moving forward and doing all kinds of fun stuff.
Well, it reminds me of that. I saw that video on YouTube, how Star Wars was saved in the edit. And my goodness, because I remember hearing all those stories about, like everybody back then was like, this thing's going to bomb.
Yeah.
This thing's going to be awful. And I was just like, we got to see it, the final product. We didn't get to see what it was looking like. And so this showed you what it could have been like. And I was like, oh my gosh, it could have been awful.
It could have been awful.
And I was just like, but it really hit me that I was just like, how many other films are awful that could have been good if it was just edited right? And so, yeah, that really gave me a huge respect. And who were the ones that won like the Academy Award? It was the editors.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure there was others, but I mean, I thought that was really interesting. And so, yeah, I have a lot of respect. So anything you learn in that department, I'm like, scoop it up, because we don't want to lose that knowledge. It saves or breaks the whole thing.
Yeah, and like I said, being an editor wasn't on my radar at all. And once I kind of got fundamentals in my brain, I'm like, oh, well, this is where like everything's sort of happening in the end, right? Like, this is kind of what everyone sees. You have a lot of control. And what's really cool about editing is, what's really cool about editing is it's usually just you and the director, maybe the producer, right? So it's kind of this really like intimate like creation of the final product, right? Which is awesome, because as an editor, I love just being in the room and talking, between us cutting something, just learning whatever I could, because on set it's crazy. You got like
everything's
20, 30, 50, 100 people, and it's just madness. So editing is just like this whole other like super cool process.
So what were some of the greatest things you've learned so far in that, or just some, any words of wisdom that, I mean, I know we can't go forever into it, but just what?
Generally speaking, you might have heard this from Mike and Kurt. I found it's super important, no matter who it is, for you to treat those people with respect on set, like your PAs, because you never know that PA is going to end up being a director or a producer or whatever down the road. And if you treat them like crap, they're sure as hell not going to call you, right? So it's really important to me, especially on set when I was kind of in charge of a lot of people, just treat everyone you want to be treated, treat them with respect, and just keep networking. But I mean, I remember on Bruce's film, Mike and Kurt and I were talking to one of the extras who's like, he wants to be an actor and all that. And like all three of us are like, dude, whatever you do, whatever project you're working on, just work hard, be respectful of everyone, be easy and fun to work with, and that'll get you super far in this industry. Because if someone has a project and they start thinking of the people they've worked with and you were cool to work with and you got your work done, more than likely they're going to call you, right? Like if you got along with them. So like of all the, technical stuff and all the cool, fun stuff, I really think that's probably one of the most important things, especially in this industry, right? Very collaborative industry. You can't be pissing people off, right? Or you're not going to get a call. So.
Well, when it comes to the editing process itself, is there anything in that you've really are like, man, these are the gems of knowledge in this?
Serve the story, which I know is very kind of nebulous, but your edits, everything should be serving the story. And sounds cliche, and I've heard that like a million times.
Okay.
But it really is like, you're serving the story, which is, the director's vision, right? So you just have to like sometimes put ego aside and just work that way. And that's not to say that you can't offer like ideas or like, hey, let's try this. That's usually, directors usually love that, unless they have a very specific vision for this one scene, right? Like I want to cut this way for this reason. But yeah, serve the story. That goes with like music, I mean, shooting, acting, like everyone should be serving the story, right? You really do. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, going off the script is usually a really good idea. A lot of things have changed at that point, you know, script super early on, editing's, you know, pretty late in the game. So there's usually a lot of changes, but what makes it kind of cool and fun, right? As long as you have like the framework of the script, you have a general idea of how it's going to go, it can get you down the road pretty fast. Can I answer your question?
I mean, it's probably a lot of experience that, you know, it's just one of those things, but it's good. It's
like with anything, you got to practice, right? So
right.
Even when you're not working on music video or a commercial or whatever, you should be out shooting your own stuff, putting it together. Like, especially if you want to be an editor, shooting to edit was another big thing that I learned. Don't just free for all, just kind of like, well, I'm just going to go out and kind of shoot something, right? Like, it's really hard to kind of like build something out of that. Not that that's a bad idea, but like, the sooner that you can get to like learning how to shoot to edit, it'll save you a ton of time. It'll help you kind of focus what you're trying to achieve. That was another huge like fundamental for me.
Yeah, I never understood these filmmakers are like, you know, like, oh, we've got like 100 hours of footage. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Well, you know, and there's a lot of different reasons why sometimes you'll get take after take after take.
Yeah,
right?
I can understand having a scene and having different takes. Sometimes you can take different aspects and pick the right one. But I mean, it's like if they really have 100 hours of the whole film, you know, like with all the takes off of that, I'm like, why would you ever waste so much time? Don't you want to get to what you want to do?
It's a real challenge sometimes, but you know, as a director, like I've learned that sometimes that take, the camera wasn't great. The other take, the performance wasn't great. The other take, the lighting needed to be tweaked just a little bit, right? So like, thing about filmmaking, not to be a Debbie Downer, but like, it's amazing movies get made because so much can go wrong,
right?
Like so easily. And like you said, you can have a great script, great performances, and the edit's crap. You know what I mean? So like everyone before the edit was a rock star, and you get to the end, and it's like the editor's like,
somebody dropped the ball at the end. And you're like,
like malleable, kind of crazy industry that we're all in. You know, storytellers. But yeah, I mean, I think some directors might not exactly know what they're wanting to achieve. So that's why you get hundreds of takes, or they know exactly what they want, or they're not going to stop getting shots until they get exactly what they want. I'm looking at you, David Fincher.
Yeah, I saw
Ridley.
a clip of an interview with what's his name, Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
I saw a clip of an interview with him today or yesterday, and he was talking about shooting for good enough, you know, and sometimes, you know, you want to be where, you know, everything is perfect, but that's kind of, it's kind of impossible because you've got so many people on set at any given time. There could be 100 people on set, and if one person makes one tiny mistake, then that could be, the whole thing is thrown out. So sometimes you do just want to shoot for good enough, and then put it together in the edit and see if there's anything you can fix. So yeah, you're right. It's absolutely insane that movies get made at all, at all.
On set when the construction crew hits the jackhammer.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
We have a few problems with that on the
you don't know this, but that really hit close to home.
Yeah.
We had some problems with that. So that sort of brings me, one thing that I love to ask all of our filmmakers is, what's the story about something, and it could be on this past project or it could be any project, where something went really wrong and you had a limited time to fix it. How do you fix it? And then how do you take that and learn from it? And make sure that it doesn't happen again. What was a great learning experience for you?
Oh man,
like I said, it doesn't have to be on this. It could be on anything that jumps out at you.
You know, off the top of my head, I don't have anything that was like super terrible, but I feel like you just gotta really learn from every experience. And what you learned previously, you got to bring that with you to the next project. Because making the same mistakes just ain't gonna cut it in this industry, right? You mess up, you really got to learn from it, tweak your ways, and all that. Man, I'm trying to think. I mean, we had a few hard, challenging days on the film, and yeah, a couple of those days were just harder than others, and not that anything necessarily went wrong, but they were just really challenging days.
Yeah.
Overall, and you're just trying to keep the train from wrecking.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
anything can kind of go haywire, from a lawnmower in the background, or, you know, people not showing up. You know, like sometimes, you know, we got a couple extras not gonna show up, and this is the problem. But just kind of roll with it. You maybe have to like adjust, you know, how many people you're gonna have in this scene or whatever. But you always like do whatever you can to make it work, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of that comes from experience, working in the film industry, right? So like, if you have an issue, you can kind of better like navigate around the problem. Whereas like if it's your first gig, you might have problems, you know. And it's usually like, you know, like working with Bruce, like I said, he knows exactly what he wants. So that kind of makes it easier too. He's never floundering, never like, oh, I'm not really sure what I want to do here. He always knew every scene, every take, every shot. Cause Bruce is an editor, right? Like, so he sees it all in his head.
Does he storyboard?
He does not storyboard.
Okay. Because I know some people like it, some people don't. And I'm like, okay.
You know, I think it depends on the type of project. I think something that has a bunch of expensive effects, screen work or virtual work. Sometimes I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice by not storyboarding it.
Yeah, like Matrix. Right? So, I know how like the brothers really storyboarded almost to death.
Yeah.
But needed it, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, that film versus, you know, a small independent character film, like
right.
There's just more to think about when you're talking, you know, The Matrix or something. Just big, huge films with lots of people, tons of money. You don't want to get into some crazy effect scene and be kind of lost, right? Like, and using storyboards is, you know, a method to communicate with everyone, right? Your actors, camera department, effects team, right?
Well, it seemed like I remember like Frank Miller's Sin City, you know, with Robert Rodriguez. Yeah. It's like they actually it was like already storyboarded right there in the graphic novel. Absolutely. And I was just like, well, maybe this isn't such a bad way to do this stuff. It's like, if you have an idea, like you say, if it's more effects or if it's noir or something like you say, when it's more of a drama, I don't think you maybe need that so much, you know, but yeah, like I could see, you know, because like me thinking the cyberpunk thing, I'm like, this thing could be insane, you know?
Yeah.
But
and you might have some scenes you definitely want to like, you know, storyboard out. You know, a lot of people say that you make a movie like 3 times, right? You write it, shoot it, cut it. Sometimes I like to put in like a 4th time. Like if you storyboard the whole film, it's a good way to like, you know, you can edit those storyboards together. You can throw some scratch music on it. You can do a little like voiceover, and then you can start getting some timing going. Like you can edit your film. Then you can find out like how long this take me, right? Like, do I need the actors to speed up? Do I need people to slow down? Do I need to let the camera linger? Like you can start to feel it before you've rolled anything, before you've hired anyone, right? But again, it depends on the project, right?
Well, it reminds me of also Alfred Hitchcock. I guess he'd really plan everything. He did so much pre-production, you know, get things ready. But again, he was dealing with, you know, when you deal with thrillers and timing. So it makes me kind of wonder when Bruce would work on his like Army of Darkness and other things like that, did they really, like you said, they didn't storyboard. So I don't know if they do it those, or I don't know if Sam Raimi or those are the guys. I don't know who else involved that, but
I think certain scenes were probably boarded.
Okay. Like when they get more people involved, maybe then they have to do
like
it.
a 2-shot, 2 people just talking. Right. You don't really need to storyboard that unless something crazy happens in the middle of it, which happened a lot with those guys.
Right.
But you know, bigger shots and scenes.
Okay.
I could see them hammering out some storyboards, even if they were super rough, right? Just to get idea of like camera placement, you know, where actors, the action, and all that. But I know there was a lot of concept art for that movie, for all those movies, really. So yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on the filmmaker, the project, all that.
When like fight scenes, like, you know, you get some of those guys that are like fight coordinators and everything. Have you ever dealt with those, and what kind of requirements do they need to help them?
I haven't really shot any big crazy stunt scenes like that myself.
Okay.
But Mike Estes, my buddy, he's stuntman.
Okay.
And so a lot of those guys will, like, when they're planning like a fight scene, they'll do storyboards, but with a camera, right? Everyone's in pads, everyone's in their padded room,
right?
And they just plan shots and do actions, and they'll shoot it, and then they'll kind of cut it together to see how it's all
like previs stuff, kind of stuff.
Pretty much. But you're doing it with your real stunt people, and they're getting thrown around and doing this and that.
Okay.
And it's, I think it's their way of doing like storyboards, right? Kind of planning out some crazy stuff.
No, that helps though. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Like John Wick, right? Like,
yeah,
they do all that. Like, that's like 90% of that movie is them doing pre-production in a padded room with guys on cables and, you know, hitting each other and throwing each other around. You kind of like cut that together and you're like, it's working.
It's funny. You said, you know, you make a movie 3, maybe 4 times, right?
Yeah.
That one for sure was made an extra 5th time. Just the stuntmen, just the choreographers. They shoot all the concept stuff in a padded room and stuff. And I bet you that entire movie, there's a cut of that where it's just the stuntmen.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a whole assembly that exists of like storyboards cut with stunt guys doing stuff with like super rough, you know, animation, right? But then, you know, the director has something to kind of like a foundation to go off of that's visual, timed, might have some like music and sound effects and stuff, but then they can really see if it's working before they really get into, you know, the expensive stuff, right?
Totally. You guys online, Doug and Alan, do you guys have any questions? Just we've been quiet. We wanna have an opportunity to ask all the questions we got.
I do not.
Great.
Right.
Just listening.
Yes.
Cool. Aaron, have you talked at all about your day job? What are you doing now? Because I know you're still sort of in the industry. You're doing some editing and stuff like that. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, my day job, I've kind of done this for many years with a lot of different companies, but right now I work with a local Medford company called Tom's Off Road, where we specialize in like old Ford Broncos. Yeah.
Bunch of OJs out there.
Older than that one. But so like for them, I do a lot of photography work, a lot of video. You know, I travel to Moab and watch those guys rock crawl and try and wreck and break their Broncos, which is super fun. Like I've never really done anything like that before, and it's been a good run. I've been with them for like 5 years now. So, and they were super cool to give me the time off to go work on this movie. So big props to them. I know a lot of companies would not do that, you know? So yeah, it's not to be flippant, but it's kind of the same thing I've always been doing, right? Like the work's the same, right? I'm still shooting stuff, I'm still editing things, but it's just a different kind of like focus, which is cool to kind of change that up and just do different things and meet different people. And yeah, I'm really enjoying myself over there for sure.
Good deal.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could just on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Tom's Off Road. Yeah, man, just go on there. There's all kinds of stuff on there. Right on, yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. That was good. Yeah, we just recently moved like about a year ago to a new big facility, which has been super fun and kind of daunting. But yeah, so that's kind of my day job, you know, and that stuff. And I freelance a lot still at night, and never ends.
Never ends.
Which is fine with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions around here before I change the subject? Let's hear it.
So I had a question more regarding your experience in like writing and pre-production.
Absolutely.
And I guess more to your own personal taste. So in terms of what you gravitate towards to the most, has there been or are there any projects that you would want to pursue in terms of like is there a kind of plot or genre or approach to storytelling you'd want to explore or think about explore, whether it's just at the pipe dream level or it's something you're like really looking forward to or have a set plan for? What do your whims look like?
Well, I'm a pretty nerdy dude. Like sci-fi, I like action stuff, I like cool thrillers, some fantasy stuff. And a lot of the stuff that I've written kind of are in that wheelhouse somewhere. I've never really I just try and think of ideas and write them down, and then I start to try and put them together slowly. And once I kind of have a framework, something's gonna work, I do this weird thing where I'll start to look for music, soundtrack music, to kind of give me a vibe. Sometimes I'll make a playlist of all these tracks. I'll just turn it on and I'll start writing. And it kind of helps me just kind of really get into a zone with that project. So I totally recommend doing that if you're a writer and a project, and just try and do whatever you can to put yourself in that mindset to do the thing.
When you go in terms of creative process, or at least when you have some sort of narrative idea, do you think you have a tendency, and of course you need all three of these and more for a story, but do you tend to start more with characters, with plots, or with setting? Because I know that's especially a big thing that I know that, at least in my own thoughts about speculative fiction or things that are in the realm of sci-fi or even fantasy or anything that, anything that is sufficiently different from our regular day-to-day lives, that part of that too is putting all those elements together. That's what makes a great cohesive narrative. But are there any of those elements or ones that I didn't mention that you think that you gravitate towards the most?
Well, I'm very much a visual guy. So for me, writing isn't the easiest thing for me, but I do really love it. But sometimes I like to just sit down and right? Just so I can get a visual, if I'm thinking of a character, try and kind of write bios for them, a little bit of backstory, just so I can give them some bones, right? To work into a story. But a lot of it's visual for me. So a lot of drawing myself, or I'll get online and I'll look for photos or other concept art that kind of fits kind of what I'm trying to work on. And I just kind of collect all these different elements, right? And that kind of helps push me into the writing phase. And then once I have something written, then I really go into my own and start storyboarding for real, doing concept art if that's necessary. I don't know, it's almost like making music. Sometimes you start with a beat, sometimes you start with a melody, sometimes you start with some lyrics. It just kind of depends, right? So to try and answer your question, yeah, sometimes I'm thinking of a character doing something. Sometimes it's more about a cool environment that you could use as the world to put people in, put characters in.
I've always heard, or at least an interpretation I've heard in terms of how plots develop, and an idea that has gone into my own approach to writing narrative sequences, is that you brainstorm interesting moments or moments that you think would be cool or unique, and then the story is just a matter of how can you put the plot in certain directions to go from moment to moment, from set piece to set piece.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like you're kind of just putting scenes together, right? And then trying to find the glue between the scenes. And that can be really challenging sometimes, right? You can kind of paint yourself into a corner if you're not careful, but as long as you're not rolling cameras, it's all flexible, right? So you gotta one of my writing teachers in school was and this wasn't just specific to her, but you got to be able to kill your darlings, right? Kill your children. Yep. If a scene's not working, doesn't matter if you spent 1 million hours on it. It's not working in the story. You got to cut it. You got to let it go.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Absolutely. So sometimes that a scene will just bog down your momentum in the story or whatever. And you can try and rework it, right? Try and rewrite it and shorten it or whatever. But sometimes you just got to be okay with the scene doesn't work, doesn't belong. right? And you just got to cut it out. And sometimes that's hard. Like, as artists and creative people, we're really close to that stuff, and like, oh, I wrote this thing. I want every single word spoken on screen, and you just can't think of it that way, right? Like the script is the bones, but that's about all it is, really. So you have to be flexible in like production, because great actors will have cool ideas on how to approach certain scenes, and you should be open to that, right? Once you think you know it all and you're the guy that is just gonna like, no one can add any input. It's a collaborative industry, so like you need to be open to ideas, and that's actually something I learned from Bruce. He's like, best idea wins. I don't care where it comes from. You can be the PA and like just hanging out and on set, and you're watching this unfold, and you might have an idea. It's like, spit it out, man. Like, talk about it, because it might be brilliant, right? So again, it's like just treating everyone with respect. Best idea wins, I think, is brilliant, because you just never know when or where a great idea is going to come from, and like you can't think of everything, right? And that's what's awesome about having a really cool creative team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember looking at lead up for like even Blade Runner, and I was just really amazed, because a lot of times we think of Ridley did all this, you get this idea in your head that maybe Ridley thought of everything.
Right.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He had a huge art department.
Mm-hmm.
They were making up the logos for the companies, all of the neon signs, all this other stuff. And he was actually, there was all kinds of ideas coming.
Yeah.
And he would try and shoot everything he could, and hopefully get incorporated. One time they had the idea of having a whole pool filled with mercury, and what it would be like to jump on that. Of course, they abandoned that, considering the toxicity problems with it.
Absolutely.
But but the concept is kind of like wild. What if there is, what if you could do something like that? But so even when I'm thinking of what I want to do, it's like, I even taught at Eagle Ridge High School a little bit, because I'm like, I got to find kids, because I'm like, I got to build an army of artists to pull some of this stuff off, because it's like, you can't do it all yourself. So I was curious, like, what were some of the projects you've done that are, like you say, like sci-fi and other things? What are some of the things you've done, or what are some of the things you'd like to do?
Oh man, I've got a couple screenplays that I would love to get into production. It's always like everyone hunting down funding for things.
Mm-hmm.
It's no simple task. So I whittle away at that stuff. Unfortunately, I'm so freaking busy. I don't get to like work on the personal things, which is kind of a bummer. But when I do, I sit down, I really focus the time, right? Because you have to put the time in, right? And you have to make it as good as you possibly can. The storyboarding and the concept art has really helped me, because that's really great pitch material for people that might have money, but like almost zero vision, right? If you can show them things, show them that you can achieve things, even if it's just like, not even a short film, but like scene, cool ass scene, right? Like your movie, like if you do one cool scene, you just put everything you can into it, make it look like how you would want the whole film to look. I mean, that's a great thing to have pitch material to get people on board, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
You don't want to go in empty-handed, right? Like, oh, I've got this idea. Well, I mean, everyone's got an idea. Right?
Yeah.
But like, can you execute, right?
Right.
One of my red flags, if I hear someone say, I'm a big idea guy, to me, that means you can't execute, right? Like, everyone's a big idea guy. Right? But if you can't put like pencil to paper, write something, draw something, shoot something, edit something, like, I mean, you're just talking, right? Like, so
everyone's idea is always perfect in their head, but until you actually
gotta be able to execute somehow. And if that's like hiring a friend or a pal or getting some people together, like that's what you got to do. But yeah, whenever I hear that, I'm a big idea guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, even for me, it was like, I felt really like I need to collaborate, like, because to me, like, even cyberpunk is like, everybody has their own idea of what it is.
Right.
And it, as far as building like a community, like, usually cyberpunk's set in bigger towns. So, I mean, of course, when you think of bigger towns, you have the Latino section, you have the Chinese section, you have all these different influences, like all nations almost in one town. So everybody has their part and their feel. And so, like for my character, I wanted him to, he's trying to make the world a better place.
Right.
But he knows he can't do it alone. So he's, got to collaborate with all these other people in order to make change. So I wanted to kind of have these other things represented, but I would want them to tell me what would you wear? What would you want to do? How would your area look? What music would you listen to? It's like I don't have the answers; those you do.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm okay with not having all the answers. It's just I just get a little worried that it's like you say, it's like, can we, I don't want it to get so out of proportion that it can't get done,
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you're not an artist or anything, like, Google image search is a great resource, right? Like you can just plug in,
not even the AI engines. I'm like, they're nice for
like,
just getting you ideas.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be exact, you don't want to copy, you got to make it kind of your own in order to have a copyright. Yeah. But it's not a bad place for ideas.
But I mean, even if you're trying to pitch to like an actor, like what you want this thing to kind of look like.
Oh yeah.
But you're not an artist. You're not a Photoshop master or illustrator or whatever. Like those images you find, like you can kind of put those together and be like, I want it to feel and look like this, right? Like senior actors are like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like I get that, right? But if sometimes like, especially for me, I'm not the best with like explaining things. It's better for me just like show something. Right? Either I shot it, I cut it together, or some art or whatever. It's usually easier for me to like have conversations with people if I have a visual element to share with them, right? And a lot of times it kicks ideas off in their heads, and then you immediately become collaborative, which is rad, And that's kind of what it's all about. Because they might have ideas that you never thought of. Right? Yeah. And then you steal them.
That's great.
Good artists borrow, great artists steal.
Yes, exactly. John, you brought up AI. I just want to say I use ChatGPT just about every day to help me brainstorm like writing prompts or ideas or whatever when I'm writing. And ChatGPT, it sucks. But you know what? It's really great at telling me what sucks and then spawning new ideas from that. So it's really, really great for brainstorming like that. And then I end up usually with something that I really, really like after that. So you can get inspiration from all sorts of places like that.
Yeah, AI is like a big deal, especially in creative industries now. People are freaked out. And, I guess rightly so to a certain extent.
Well, I think it's about what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Rather, I see it just as another creative tool.
It is.
But when you use it like I'm going to replace all you people with it, I don't think that's the right.
Yeah.
That doesn't click with me. It's like, no, this is to help you get ideas. It's not to be the end thing. Yeah. I mean, that's at least how I feel about it.
That genie's out of the bottle. So the people that are freaking out, it's like they got to stop it. It's not going to stop.
It's not going to go away.
Toothpaste is already out. But yeah, like you have to use it as a tool to get you down the road, right? It's like you can use ChatGPT to like help you write something, but you're going to edit the hell out of it because some of the stuff is just ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
Right? But it'll give you a framework to work off of.
Remember that Kurt had that one movie, or there's that short where they just took whatever it did out and they shot it. It was ridiculous. It was pretty hilarious.
But that stuff is like here and like moving at light speed, right? And we're not far off from seeing like the first AI movie, which I mean,
but will people will they go to see it?
Well, I mean, I think people will go see it just because they're interested. But I think with filmmaking, what makes filmmaking is the human aspect of it, right? Like the human stories and like the human execution of it all. If you're just putting it through a computer and letting it make all the choices, I don't know what that is.
Well, people, of course, those who are very, very much outside of things like the film industry or even creative industries will see things like that, and without any sort of willingness to look any deeper into it will, of course, watch those films or look at those things and just like, oh, okay, it feels just like the real thing, or close enough to it. But there are always, for as long as there are people making art, those people, and as long as, those artists are being treated properly, that things like those tools of AI, even if they feel like that they are, they're doing things that normally just a few years ago we never would have thought possible, that I don't envision it taking over, but it does come to the fact that it's not so much the AI that is the problem or that will potentially become the problem. It's people who don't understand or undervalue the work of human artists compared to these tools.
Absolutely.
And those who are at the top that think they can serve as a replacement when they truly can't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure big production houses, the big guys are, the bean counters are just looking for ways to like get rid of people so they don't have to pay them. Right. Like, I mean, the big guys, right? Like that's a thing they're looking into, but like, okay, like you're not gonna be able to stop them from doing that. But like, do they really think AI is just gonna be able to pump out hundreds of movies every year and they're all gonna win the Oscars and they're all gonna make tons of money? Like, I don't know, maybe.
There's not enough time in the day.
And it's also, it is no, AI cannot create something new. It can always iterate on something else that exists.
Exactly.
So there will always be, it is by no means an attack on human creativity.
Not at all. And honestly, I think I see AI tools right now, specifically filmmakers. Like, I think it's a great pre-production tool.
Right. Exactly.
Right. It helps you get ideas out of your head that you might not be able to like draw yourself or whatever. Like if you're just trying to storyboard a few ideas, like I don't see any problem with people using AI to get like a foundational like, vision together. But please, God, don't use that as your be all end all, right? Like,
I mean,
it shouldn't be,
I think, let's be honest, most movies are about getting a connection. Star Wars, it's really a characters. They call it stuff space opera because it's really the characters. Same with Game of Thrones. He's like, it's not a dragon movie. It's not a dragon series. It's about people.
Yep.
And so as long as we have the characters, I think, having that real feel of real connection, you got to have a human behind it to really have it.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, like I say, if it was just a robot movie or something, who would want to watch, like you say, a novelty thing? Yeah, but as far as an ongoing thing, I don't think that's why we go to the movies.
Well,
don't we go there to form a connection? Pieces. And a lot of people want to see their actors. They want to see their actresses. Sure. They don't want to see, if I want to see an animated movie, I'll go watch an animated movie. But if you're telling me that this fake thing is a real thing, I'm like, what am I going to do? Go shake and I get to meet them in real life? It's like, I don't.
The thing I want to say go let me talk about it.
Really good to meet you, man.
Yeah, totally.
Like it's just, I think the whole AI thing is just, it's going to be kind of a growing pains struggle for a little while. It's the hot new shiny object that everyone can't get enough of right now. But you're right. Yeah. It's like I go to, a lot of movies, I go to watch a specific director, right? Because I love their body of work and this is their new thing, right? Like, so if they're just,
or an actor. I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, if he's in this one, maybe I should check out movie.
And it could be like, someone just doing voice work in an animated feature, and I'll go see that. But
right,
I think it's really going to depend on how people approach this whole AI thing.
So now, have you made some of your sci-fi or other things that you've done, or still ideas that you're still?
It's still ideas, but I have shot something like proof of concept stuff. Taking stuff from the camera into After Effects. Keying out stuff, doing compositing. Mm-hmm. I love just adding like scratch sound, scratch music stuff, just so I can like get the idea out, right?
Right.
So I haven't even made like a short, but I've shot like certain shots or scenes just to kind of get out of my head.
Right. I got you. And sometimes when you get those ideas, you gotta Well, you got to do something with it quick.
Some of them are
It's like,
songs.
it's like music stuff.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you get an idea for a song, but if you don't write it down in some way, shape, or form, it's gone.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
Anthony, did you say you had a question or?
Yes. I'd like to say I appreciate a lot of the wisdom you shared with us tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
Myself also, I had a mechanic shop in Florida where I built cars for the Rolex 24-hour race.
Oh, right on.
And a couple of music artists and NFL players. And I wanted to say that building a car seemed quite more motivational to get right to the pen and paper, like you were saying. They would walk in with the money, you get their picture, and then you build the car.
Yeah.
When I got into film, this side of the production, I felt like that was a bit harder to accomplish. Like you were saying, at first you're talking, but once you actually start to get to the work, it's a whole nother game.
Yeah.
And I don't think people respect how much like a 1 hour film, you know.
Oh my God.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to accomplish is
Yeah.
a 1 hour, 75 minutes. And just when I first started this out, it was a lot of talking. And the further you get into it, you're like looking back, you're like, wow, this is a lot of work, and you're not even there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like a creative industry like that, you're willing something into existence, right?
Yeah.
Like if a client comes to you and they're like, I want you to build me this car. Here's a bunch of money. Here's the
You have
ideas.
everything to do it.
You're like, sweet, dude. Thanks for the roadmap.
Yeah.
The resources, and you can jump in. You know, but yeah, you know, storytelling is just a different nebulous kind of thing, and you kind of have to wrestle with it and kind of like taking a big wad of clay, right, and making something out of it.
Yeah, and like
sometimes you're like,
and like the financial you were talking
I
about, it's
know.
like you're at Las Vegas and you're throwing the craziest dice you ever had, because what if you get nothing?
Yeah.
Crap shots, crap edit, you just don't know what you're walking out with.
Absolutely.
And that was my question for you. You had said something pretty powerful to me, and that was film to edit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
coming from an independent filmmaker, I didn't have much money to start with. My budget was $25,000, and that's the most important thing I keep thinking of is my editor actually asked to be. He's just a local, never tried before, so I've never tried before, so we're a bunch of first timers.
Nice. It's a good place to be, though.
It is.
And my question to you is, how important would it be to actually have him on set for the sake of understanding the picture, being able to like make suggestions right there to save the finances of getting his opinion later on? Like you said, your job is all the way at the end of the film and everything's already happened.
But you're there during it too, a little bit. Were you ever there during it as an editor?
On occasion.
Okay.
Honestly, sometimes on occasion I was shooting it as well.
Okay.
So like I had to be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, to save your $25,000 from just going,
Yeah, and just
right, like
disappearing.
I absolutely would get your editor in the room. The earlier the better.
Okay.
Right. And if you're the director, you know, like guide him, hammer things out, get it kind of figured out. But yeah, on set, absolutely a resource that you should have there.
Okay.
and kind of listen to. If you're both kind of just starting out, that can be a little more difficult sometimes if he doesn't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
But like if he's got a real editor's mind, right, he should be able to help you, not necessarily plan shots, but like help you kind of like guide you like the timing of shots, right? Because that's what the editor does. So for me, like editing's a lot of like feel, like
Keeping a certain feeling going, or
well, just like
or
sometimes
building it.
sometimes my best what helps me guide an edit is like if I get a rough assembly and then I show it to like a few people, right? As I'm watching it, if a shot's too long, I'll start to feel anxiety about it. Going on too long.
Right.
I'll make a note, right?
Mhm.
No one said anything, but like I'm sitting there and these guys are my audience, right? They're just like
You're like seeing it through their eyes. They're like, oh man, this
in a bit of a way, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, that shot went way too quick, or it seems kind of flabby, right? Like I'm a lot more conscious of that when I'm sitting with other people, right? It's almost like you don't want to waste their time or waste their experience. So I highly recommend that. So if your editor gets an assembly, you and him sit in a room with like, I don't know, 3 or 4 other, like your friends, like just invite your friends, right? sit there with a pad of paper or your phone, sit behind them so you're not like making a fool of yourself. But like if you feel like, oh man, the scene's going on a little too long, that shot's long, write it down, right? And then your editor should be at it the next day, just trimming the fat, make it nice and tight, right? People should. This is something Bruce taught me. People at the end of it should be wanting more, right? Like,
don't overstay your welcome.
We live in a world where, like, you know, the big studios are just milking everything for every last penny they can get out of it, which is stupid, but it's a business, right? So they're trying to make money. But yeah, like shooting the edit is a huge thing, especially for people that are just starting out. You're not going to have a lot of money, and maybe some of it's yours, right? So it's super
all self-funded,
super important to like not waste a dime.
And I felt like the opportunity that I provided, I felt like I was equal to everybody, being my first time. All actors are first time, everything. So this is going to be one hell of a ship shipping out.
You're the boss though, so it's like gotta kind of take the bull by the horns, and whether it's everyone's first time or not, they're going to be looking to you for answers to things, right? So, but man, that's exciting. And like working with a bunch of first timers.
I hope I don't screw it up.
Dude, everyone says that. Everybody. So like, just get that out of your system. You're like, there's a good chance that some stuff is going to go sideways, right? Like,
it's better to learn that way.
It's part of it, right? And then you learn that lesson. Like, I remember that scene got so screwed up because of whatever, right?
And then you take that and then you move on with it, and you don't make that same mistake again.
Over and over.
Absolutely,
And nothing better to learn by blowing money.
Seriously,
the great teacher, isn't it?
You learn how much stuff costs, right? You're like, crap. Like, and scene to scene, it's going to be different. Like, some scenes are going to require more everything, more people, more money, more focus. Some scenes, not throwaway scenes, but they're just going to require less. You know? Just have two people in one small like place. It's not going to cost you tons of money. But if you immediately cut and they're on a motorcycle going over the Golden Gate Bridge and there's a helicopter flying out, you know, like that stuff, like you just put the money where it's going to count. Like, and you should know as the director, like what scenes are going to be those scenes.
And where do you put it at?
Where you're going to have to put that money. But you can't suck the resources out of all the other scenes to get this, because then you're going to lose your story, right?
Yeah.
So it's a balancing act for sure. There's a lot to think about, which I'm sure you're very aware.
And my last one is myself. I learned on iMovie, Apple.
Oh yeah.
And with meeting him, he would like to use DaVinci, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I was wondering how you feel about that one.
Oh yeah. What editors?
So I've been using. I've used a lot. Like when I first started, it was Sony Vegas because it cost nothing or something.
Yeah.
And then I moved into Final Cut because that's where my mentor was at.
I've heard a lot about that.
So I used a lot of Final Cut, and then Final Cut changed a number of years ago, and I kind of bounced, and I went to Premiere, and I've been in Premiere like pretty much ever since. That's not to say Premiere is awesome. It's buggy as hell sometimes, and has driven me crazy on a few occasions. But I've heard a lot of really good things about DaVinci.
Okay.
Kind of an all-in-wonder, can do all kinds of crazy stuff that like no other editor can really do, or they just don't have the tools quite yet. But I haven't dove into that. It's more node-based, which is an interesting way. I would have to wrap my brain around that. There's gonna be a learning curve for me. But for me, like, you know, I get hired for a gig, I got to pound through it and deliver, right? So I have a lot of time to like move into a whole new platform. Not that I won't, but it's a lot to learn. I'm gonna have to fumble around for a while before I can kind of like,
oh, you're already making it work where you're at too.
Exactly. So
I think what Kurt used, did he like Final Cut?
He's Final Cut Pro.
He was Final, okay.
Yeah, and honestly, like for me, it's less about software that you use and more about the fundamentals of telling a story through editing, right? So that's the important thing. Because that knowledge, you can take to any program and do the thing.
Exactly.
Right?
You can do it on iMovie or Windows Movie Maker or whatever, you know?
You can, absolutely. So it's really about studying really good films, If you want to study editing, throw in your favorite movie, turn the sound off, mute it,
And
just watch it, watch how they're cutting, and like try and figure out why they're cutting.
I've never thought of that. That's a
Like, because if you leave the sound on, you're going to get caught up in it, and then
Right.
you're just watching a movie, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
And so you got to turn the sound off, and you have to study it. And like almost nothing in a feature film, especially with a pretty good budget, nothing what you're seeing is an accident.
Yeah.
None of it.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's all very, very well planned out far in advance. So try and decode what they're doing, right? And like why they're doing it that way. Like why are they shooting with like this, big wide shot and then they cut into this, close to that or whatever, I would just watch your favorite movies, muted, and just, like make notes, right? If there's a scene that you really like, the way it just kind of like flows, and make note of it, and then just kind of study it.
And then I got one more question. before I
Absolutely.
drive you nuts.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So you brought up another thing when you said the editor can change the script later on. And I was wondering the importance you talked about also of like people falling asleep during a scene if it's too long.
Yeah.
I wrote most of mine in 3, 5, and 10-second intervals. Some go up a little more or less. And what's the importance of sticking to that? And what would you say the maximum seconds would be that you're going to lose somebody?
That's a really good question. That's a really hard question to answer.
Yeah. Sorry about
Because
that.
no, you're good. It's a really good question. It really depends on I hate saying that because I feel like a broken record, but depends on the project and what you're trying to achieve, right? So like, you seen the movie Revenant?
Yeah.
Okay, like that opening scene is one shot for like, I don't know how long that shot is, right? But you're locked in
The whole time.
the whole time because it's interesting, it keeps your attention. But if you did that in, some other movie, some guy just walking around or whatever, like
It wouldn't work.
it's like people would be like walking out of the theater, right? So again, like really depends on what you're trying to achieve, what the project is, and you have to be real about it. Like that's a little bit of a kill your darling kind of thing, right? You're like, oh, I have this idea of like the shot being 10 minutes long and it being so awesome.
I think the movie 1917 or something, didn't they have some really long
Well, that's
scenes?
kind of like Hitchcock.
But I don't know if they intended it.
Yeah.
So they kind of baked that into the equation.
Yeah.
But
It's cutting away,
But
so
I
it looks
think-
like
but-
one shot the whole movie.
right. But I don't know. Like you say, it's like that may have worked. That doesn't necessarily work for everything.
Absolutely not.
Right.
No.
So you got to still tailor it to what you
Hitchcock
do.
only did that once, right?
Oh.
The movie Rope. That movie is
Which one?
shot Rope.
Rope. Oh, and I'm
It's shot and cut in a way that it looks like one shot, right?
Mm.
But again, that's like a shoot to edit thing, right? Like you're following your actor and they kind of, you have him get to black, like, maybe the lights aren't on him. That's your cut point, right? In that black. So when they come back out, you've edited it in a way that it's like, oh, that's like one shot. It might be 2 or 3 shots cut together, right? You gotta be really creative about how you're gonna shoot it, but really like how you're gonna cut it to make it work.
More, yeah.
And there's Denis Villeneuve, the guy that did the new Blade Runner and Dune. Like that guy's brilliant. I watch any interview I can with that guy because he just has a wealth of knowledge.
I'm surprised how fast he moved up.
Well, and he just has a different vibe because I think he's French, I believe.
Uruguayan.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember I just was looking up some of his earlier work, and he made like this one big robot, like robots walking through the city thing. And I'm like, today you think, okay, that's nice, but it's when he did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back in the day when that stuff was still new, and I think that's how he got his name out there as fast as he did.
Yeah.
It's because he did those things back then, and I think it was like 3D Studio or whatever, but or something now, but you get the idea.
Great filmmaker. Like really has the mastered like filmmaking,
But it's just
visual storytelling.
It surprised me how fast. I'm like, he just did that, and now he's freaking making Dune. I mean, holy,
But that's the
holy
thing.
crap.
I mean, he's really been around a long time. I was watching an interview between him and Christopher Nolan,
Mhm.
which you should hunt that down on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's amazing watching two masters talk about each other's films. It's ridiculous. But Nolan was talking about when he was young, like in grade school, he had a buddy that was an artist. And he wrote a Dune movie, and his buddy drew the Dune movie. And so, like, it's really cool all these years later. Some of the scenes in those movies have been around in his brain for like decades, right? Which is super awesome. That's just such a cool story to me. So yeah, just like it's going to be hard as, you know, independent filmmaker, small budget, but like you just learn how to stretch that dollar
Yeah,
as far as you can. And if that's asking people to do stuff for free, that's asking people to do stuff for free, right? Like, you know, trade, right? If you have an actor, you're like, I can't pay you, dude, but like, I'll help you direct whatever, right? Maybe it's you help him make his demo reel as an actor, right? Use your talents and skill set to help others. They'll help you, and then it's like
network.
You cannot be in this industry and not collaborate. It's just virtually impossible.
When you're starting out, you don't have any money to pay anybody. You know what you do have the money for? Pizza. Feed everybody. Feed everybody. Absolutely.
Yeah, true,
that's the minimum that you can do.
Some of those people, we'll look for food.
As a director or producer, you have to feed your crew, like, no matter what. Like, everyone can work really long hours and like it be a grind. If you're not feeding them, they have no fuel to do that for you.
You got to take care of people as best you can.
Grouchy, and
they do.
will just straight walk off your set. Right? So, at the very least, give them pizza and coffee.
Yeah. All right. We're getting into our final minutes here. Okay. So I just wanted to give everybody one more opportunity to ask any questions before we got probably, you know, just under 10 minutes left. So any final questions we want to go around? Anthony, specific, you're just to my right. Do you have anything else you wanted to do?
No, but I'd like to point out that he claimed to turn off the sound, and I'm going to try that out because I've kind of ruined movies for myself by getting into this industry because now I pick out everything, like the rims moving the other day and the drone shot. Some of it just really ruins a film.
Absolutely.
Even your favorites.
You kind of know like how magic's made sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But that's also super cool too. Like, oh, that's how they did that? I can totally do that. Right? Like, so I get what you're saying though. But study your movies, turn the sound off.
Absolutely. John, any final thoughts there?
Well, it just reminds me, like, you know, we've been looking at Alien, you know, the making of it. Well, it just reminds me, it's like when they shoot this stuff, there's no music playing, you know, all the effects, all the music comes later. So it's like watching just straight stuff, you know, just anyways, I mean,
it's like a silent film, right? Your film should work as a silent film,
right?
Like the sound and like music is just gonna enhance everything. Real quick, because you brought up Alien. My editing teacher in college, one day, she's like, we're gonna watch this scene. We're gonna watch it two ways. We're gonna watch it with sound on. We're gonna watch it with the sound off, and then we're gonna watch it without the video, and we're just gonna listen to it. Right? That's cool. Audio, even though I told you to turn it off, is so important. Like, it's literally 50% of your movie.
It is.
Right? It's like, it's the stuff that gets people creeped out, feeling happy, or like, you know, so we watched the scene where the cat like freaks out, hisses, and the alien pops through. So we watched it, and then when we watched it with the sound off, well, this is kind of boring. But then she turned the video off, and we all listened to it, and she turned the lights on. We were just in a dark room, and like, it's legit, dude. It's like, that's some creepy stuff, man. So don't ignore your audio.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I found a little thing where somebody had went back and remastered all the Alien music and made like a 27 little shorts.
Oh, wow.
It's on YouTube. I'll give you the link if you want, because I was like, because a lot of people were disappointed that Jerry Goldsmith did the soundtrack. Well, when they came out with the soundtrack, it was of his original music, but a lot of it wasn't used in the film, and there was music in the film that wasn't on the soundtrack, and so everybody's like, "Hey, this doesn't match up," you know. But so this guy kind of was in that boat and finally decided, well, I guess I'll just have to do it myself. And so anyway, no, I mean, it just gives me a lot more, when I'm thinking about it. It's like when you're shooting for the visual.
Yeah.
But like you say, you may have ideas in your mind. Like sometimes I hear, sometimes they'll play, I think even Blade Runner or something, like if they got some music from Vangelis, they might play it or something, just so people get the feeling of what it is they're going to be. But of course, when you're shooting it, you're not going to be playing it because you need just to have the shot. Yeah. So it's just, it's like a layering thing,
Absolutely. Yep.
And so sometimes it's like you got to have those things in your mind, but you can't. It's a little bit hard. It's like building up a song where you're like, this is the beat pattern, this is the, you're thinking of the whole song in the end, but trying to break it out, it's tough sometimes.
Yeah, trying to get all your different elements so you can actually
brain doesn't. Yeah, it takes a while to train your brain to be okay with that, I think.
And that's what's amazing to me, like working with Bruce. Like it's all here, dude. Like every edit, every shot,
audio, video, everything.
Dude, it's all there already.
But he's able to break it down, though.
Yeah, and that comes from experience, right? Like the more you do it, the more like it just becomes easier, right? And it's just really fun to watch him work on set and like just see how his mind works.
Absolutely. Alan, do you have any final thoughts to share with the group or with Aaron here?
No questions, but I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. Glad to have you. I'm glad you came out. What about Doug? You got any final thoughts for us?
Well, I got two questions. I know we're going to run out of time on the second one, but the first one is, with all the experience that you've had now, if you had a chance, the opportunity to go back and talk to yourself as a younger youth, what advice would you give yourself or tips? And the second one, someone kind of mentioned about crowdfunding, and I was wondering if anyone else has actually ever used crowdfunding in any way and what experience or stories. But those, short times for that.
Yeah, man, what would I change? Like this sounds kind of cheesy, but I don't know if I would change anything because
what advice would you give yourself?
Well, I'm really stoked the way everything kind of like worked itself out.
Okay.
I would probably skip out on going to college and I would probably just move my ass to LA and just get in it.
Yeah.
Like just neck deep in it. Right. And not that I regret not going to LA, like, and just doing it. I had, Bruce could have easily hooked me up with all kinds of people. But I really think the experiences that I've had, like my, developing my career in a very small pond and having to I couldn't specialize, right? I couldn't just be an editor. I couldn't just be a camera guy. Had to learn all these different aspects and skill sets to make myself more marketable. Yeah. If I moved to LA, I probably could have just been an editor. Honestly, I kind of get bored easy, and just editing day in, day out. Like sometimes I gotta stop and draw something, right? Or I gotta go out and shoot something. That's just me personally. I know there's guys that Kurt Ralph. That dude shoots and shoots and shoots. We'd be looking for him sometimes. Where's Kurt?
Yeah.
He's 30 feet behind us, shooting something with his phone.
Exactly. So we stayed at the same hotel in Ashland, me and Kurt, and I would be walking.
Ledke or somebody else?
Ross from last month.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yes. I remember we stayed at the same hotel, and I would be walking to the little restaurant in the hotel, and I'd see him out on the back porch, and he was just shooting the way the sunset came through the trees.
Absolutely.
He was just I love it. Look at the way the light comes in. And he just keeps going and going and going. And we called him the director of punctuality because he was always late.
Love you.
Exactly. We do. Yeah, he was. He knows it. They in that past van, they said that they openly had bets of how late he was going to be every single day. Not if he's going to be late. How late.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's because he's off doing those things all the time. Yeah.
And just to touch on that real quick, it's important as creatives and filmmakers, never stop being a student, ever. Right. Learn as much as you can about as much as you can. right? And don't stop. Like,
I feel like I'm annoying sometimes on set. I'm like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
no, I mean, as like a director, you should really know everyone's job.
Yeah.
Like maybe you don't do the job, but you should absolutely know what it takes to do their job. And that will help you like, okay, why is this taking you so long to do this? Because I can do this job.
And you know
And
how long it takes.
You know how
and what
long
you
it
have
takes.
to do.
But like it also like you're able to communicate with them, you know, in their language, right? So especially directors, learn as much as you can, learn every freaking job, every job, pre-production, post, learn as much as you can. Doesn't mean you have to be sitting there pushing buttons. I mean, you have to have the pencil in your hand, you're drawing pictures, but you should understand what it takes and what they're doing and how long it takes and why they're doing it. So you can, you know, talk to them.
Totally.
Better communicate.
Yeah. Would you like to speak on the crowdfunding question?
Crowdfunding. I haven't personally used any crowdfunding for any project, but I do know people have done that and it's worked out pretty well for them. Again, if you're asking people for money, you better have something to show them so they know what they're spending their money on. So pitch material, right? Like at the very least, some photos of an actor in a space doing something, right? Even better, shoot something, edit it, give it some music, like make a tiny like micro movie, right? Like take a scene out of your movie that you're like, this scene really represents kind of like what I'm going for. Spend some money on it, get some good actors, get a good shooter, like light it, do the thing for real, right? And then that's part of your pitch material to people. Because then people see that like, oh, well, you're not just talk, you're not just a big idea guy, right? Like, oh, he's got something to show, right? It's not a lot, but it's like, this looks sweet, right? So people are more likely to give you money than if you're just like, hey, I got this thing, can you give me some money to do it? It's like, no, dude.
Totally, yeah.
I've seen that here in the Pacific Northwest. I'm from the islands of Florida, but the West is much more giving, I'll tell you that. I've seen these crowd funds for these movies go well beyond their ask, for sure.
Absolutely. And a lot of that is like they have something to show, right? To get people excited. You gotta get
like
people
the
excited.
trailer. Most of the trailers I've seen are about 1:15 to 1:45 for the crowdfundings.
A trailer is a great way to do it, right? Because you can kind of like vaguely tell your story. You can maybe get a few different scenes. People definitely understand the tone. Like get someone to write some great music for it, right? Like give someone something if you're asking them for money.
Backseat driver, Roland Stafford of Portland just had a pretty cool thing going on. I kind of looked up to it. He had a Instagram and Facebook things. His crowdfunding, he actually offered the donations, certain things within the film, like credits, shout outs on social media.
Absolutely.
Those things were just cool bones to throw out. That way people, hey, I want my name in a credit of a film, you know? It's like,
sometimes that's all it takes, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
Yeah, and like
that was unique.
Social media is really good for like getting your name out there.
Yeah.
Costs nothing.
Yeah.
Social media, not good for much, but good for advertising, for sure. For getting out there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're about out of time here, but Aaron, I wondered if you wanted to do the honors of drawing from the hat.
Oh boy! All right.
Who gets some free ticket to the
mix it up
Klamath
here.
Independent Film Festival next
Looks
weekend?
like the one.
Who we got?
Paul
has left. He was here in the first 10 minutes.
Paul, sorry.
Sorry, Paul. Let's throw a new one then.
Well,
And I don't know Paul either, so I don't have his contact information. Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have just texted him or emailed
another one
him.
here.
Yeah. So we got
Alan.
Oh, well, thank you. I
Yeah.
have limited availability next weekend, so I'm going to watch them online. So
Yeah.
I opt
that's
out.
great. Hey, guess what?
So
Free
thanks anyway.
online. Free online. Fantastic. Good deal. All right. Well, thank you, Aaron. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for coming out.
Thank you guys for having me. It's really good to sit around and nerd out about movies and filmmaking. I love it. I talk all day about it.
Yeah.
Final thoughts for us?
Just you guys just keep doing your thing. And I know that's vague, but like, don't give up, don't stop, keep going, keep doing the thing, right? Like,
That's how I feel. I feel if I give up now, I really screwed myself out of
You'll-
4 years and some money.
you'll regret it.
Yeah.
Promise. I promise. You will regret it if you don't continue on.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Thank you so much
Thank you, guys.
for joining us for the September Klamath Film
Nice to meet y'all.
member meeting.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see you guys come out, and I hope everybody can attend the film festival next weekend. So
Thanks,
thank
Logan.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
man.
Thank you so much for coming out, man.
All right.
All righty.
Y'all be blessed.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.